Do I miss boxing? Yeah, I do. I really do. After beating Mr. Dream and becoming champion of the special circuit, I kind of got bored of boxing for a time. I felt like I was just doing the same thing over and over, and at some point it just got kind of easy, and when it got easy, it got tedious. So I felt like I wasn't really doing much. So I retired, and after that I didn't really know what to do with all the free time I had. I've been working on my YouTube channel. I've been doing some bowling stuff. I got this shiny trophy and some medals. But I don't know. Nothing ever really replaces what I felt when I was in the WVBA. And I don't know. I miss all that stuff. I miss the feeling I got whenever, the adrenaline I got whenever I knocked an opponent down. That heavy thud when they hit the mat. You know what I mean? I never really got that back. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I have made a lot of money as a boxer. I put every penny of it into my YouTube channel. All of it. Into equipment, into programs, into stuff like that, into promotion, yeah. And I feel like it just hasn't paid off yet. I'm just waiting for it to take off. I'm just waiting for my lucky break. And every time I think about that, I realize that boxing was my lucky break, so I kind of wasted a good thing, I'm ready for a comeback. I am. I'm ready to come out of retirement, step back into the ring. I'm ready.
Let's fucking go!
Punch-Out is a series that needs no introduction, especially if you're a fan of my channel. From its debut in 1984 to its send-off for Platinum members of Club Nintendo in 2009, all 4, or technically 6 of these games are known for 2 things: extreme difficulty and extreme racism, and I love both those things in my video games. But what's funny is that I've never actually 100%ed most of these games without save states. Yeah, I know, I'm a fake gamer. Anyways, today I want to answer the question, which Punch-Out game is the hardest to 100%? Well, I answered that question by keeping track of my knockdowns and knockouts while playing through all of these games to see which one was the hardest, and to see if my uncomfortable love for the series is actually some sick, twisted form of Stockholm Syndrome. And if you like content like this, please subscribe so that Nintendo will notice this video and make a new Punch-Out game. I've been waiting for way too long. Anyways, let's start with the first game. First up is the original arcade. In order to 100% this game, I simply need to beat all 6 fighters, then beat all of them again in Title Defense mode once, except for Kid Quick because he's just not in Title Defense mode for whatever reason. I also need to get the high score on the high scoreboard, but that'll probably just happen naturally. Of all the Punch-Out games, this one is easily the worst. Is it a bad game? No, but does it pale in comparison to everything that came after? Boy, does it! The engine of both these games is pretty janky, me, and the fighters, while memorable characters, don't have fights that stick out that much. None of them do any sort of crazy attacks or super moves, with the only one doing anything really outstanding being Bald Bull with his Bull Charge. Contender mode in this game is probably the easiest experience in any Punch-Out game. Even Sandman doesn't pose much of a threat. He can get the upper hand on you, but for a final boss he's really easy. In fact, since the game is so short, let's go through all the fighters. Glass Joe barely even throws attacks and is only really here to teach you the controls. Piston Hurricane is slightly harder. He has a special move where he throws a flurry of punches at you and you need to block up and down in order to not get hit. Bald Bull is probably my favorite due to having the famous Bull Charge, which is an instant knockdown attack. That said, if you parry it, then he'll take the instant knockdown. Kid Quick is the most nothing fight in the whole series. The only gimmick is that he has good defense and is weak to super punches, but that gimmick was done better by another fighter in the very next game. Combine that with not having the title defense fight, and Kid Quick is easily the most nothing character in the entire series. Pizza Pasta doesn't attack much unless you provoke him, and after a while he'll grab you, then throw an uppercut. If he hits you, he'll spam a 4-jab combo, but if he doesn't, he's put into an infinite stun. Finally, there's Mr. Sandman. He only has really strong uppercuts, and that's about it. He's strong, but not strong enough to justify being the final boss. At least his design and name make him pretty intimidating. Like, yeah, I could definitely see a large man with the stage name Mr. Sandman being world champion. That said, after taking him down, I was finally done with the first half of the game. Yup, I still had to go through title defense mode. There's only 3 real changes with this mode. 1, KOing fighters rather than TKOing them is much harder. 2, you're only allowed 2 knockdowns instead of 3. And 3, if your opponent hits you multiple times in a row, their attack speed will massively increase. Aside from that, none of the fights change at all, with the only exceptions being Piston Hurricane and Bald Bull. Piston's Rush will go on for much longer now, and after he uses it, he'll just stall out the clock, and as for Bald Bull, you can't counter his charge anymore. That's it. Glass Joe, Pizza Pasta, and Mr. Sandman don't change at all, so after taking down Mr. Sandman again, I had 100%ed the first game. So let's count up our stats. This game only took me 13 minutes, and in those 13 minutes, not only did I not lose a single time, I didn't even get knocked down a single time. I decided to rank these games on a tier list both by difficulty and quality, and in terms of difficulty, this is a D tier. It's piss easy. Here's the list of the fighters if you're curious. I know I already did a ranking on the fights in the series, but my tier list structure has changed since, and so have most of my opinions. Quality-wise, I'd give it a C+. It's fun, but it's very basic, especially considering what came after. Speaking of... Super Punch-Out Arcade. In order to 100% this game, the requirements are basically the same. I need to beat all 5 fighters, then beat them again in title defense mode. The only new requirement is that I need to get the record time on all 5 contender fights. This game is definitely a step up from the original arcade. The fights are much more distinct, their designs are much more memorable, and their attacks and patterns are much better. Bear Hugger is the first fight, so he should be a walk in the park, right? Well, yes, but actually no. He has 2 special gimmicks. First of all, you can't punch him in the stomach, and second of all, when he gets up from a knockdown, he slams you with an instant knockdown, ear clap. That's where the new ducking feature comes into play. This game adds ducking, which is a staple now, and in order to deal with a few of the fighter's special attacks, you need to use it, and this attack is one of them. That said, once you know how to dodge this attack, the fight is easy. Dragon Chan doesn't give you many opportunities to stun him, so you instead need to find your way around his guard. That is, unless you wait for that kick. This is the only attack that'll let you stun him if dodged. Much like Bear Hugger's ear clap, this flying kick is an instant knockdown attack you need to duck. Vodka Drunkinski is just kinda here. Great Tiger is essentially Piston Hurricane but harder, and Super Macho Man uses 2 sets of jabs followed up by either a hook, an uppercut, or a single spin you need to duck, or 2 instant knockdown spins you need to duck. While the first 3 fights aren't too hard and Great Tiger is only a mild threat, Super Macho Man is a killer in this game. His pattern is very unpredictable and his attacks do big damage. When I first got to this fight, I actually lost. However, after a rematch, I managed to beat him. Unfortunately, that was only the warm-up. Title defense mode is where the game really gets going. It has all the same changes as the arcade game, but unlike the first arcade game, the fighters themselves actually have some changes. Bear Hugger has the Kid Quick gimmick, except actually done well. Dragon Chan attacks more, has a tighter guard, and his flying kick attack is now reaction based. Great Tiger has several attacks from fighters in the first game, and Super Macho Man has his now iconic clothesline as well as a double hook. Vodka doesn't really have any changes. All of these guys either have incredibly unpredictable patterns, difficult to dodge attacks, or both. But here's the main difficulty with this game. In both of the arcade games, if you lose a fight, you're allowed to retry, but if you lose again, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. I didn't bring it up during the original arcade segment because it never came up. But in this game, man, you're going to be losing fights left, right, and center, meaning you'll be restarting left, right, and center. I had already lost to contender Super Macho Man, so naturally I was bound to get a game over, and after Great Tiger hit me with a swift body blow, I did. That's the first game over. The first of many, might I add. I was getting my ass handed to me, either by Super Macho Man, Great Tiger, or Dragon Chan. Dragon Chan was bad specifically because for some reason the game wasn't producing sound, and Dragon Chan's flying kick has you use him yelling at you as a cue to duck. Without that cue, it's impossible to react to, especially with my reaction time. Here's a quick montage of every time I got a game over. Well, that's it. That's the first game over. Alright. No! Alright, I gotta do it again. That said, after over 40 minutes, I made it to Title Defense Super Macho Man, who is, in my opinion, one of the hardest fights in the series. So needless to say, my palms were sweating. Would I be moving on to the next game, or would I crack under the pressure? That said, I fought him so many times that I feel like I could do it reasonably. Oh my god. Alright, he's gonna do the super spin. Ow. Alright, this is it. This will decide everything. Is he gonna spin forever, or is he gonna be merciful? He was merciful. This might be it.
Yes!
This is a moment in history. It took me 45 minutes. And in those 45 minutes, I had gotten knocked down 25 times and knocked out 7 times. Here's the difficulty tier list for the fighters. Overall, difficulty-wise, this game was definitely an A tier. Quality-wise, though, I'd give it a B-. It's definitely a step up from the first game, but it still has that jank that the first game has. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is probably the most iconic game in the franchise, with its only competition being its younger brother, Punch-Out Wii. It introduced several new cast members, such as Von Kaiser and Don Flamenco. It was originally developed without Tyson in mind, and just ended on Super Macho Man. It was also given out as a prize for a tournament. Since the NES wasn't as powerful as the arcade cabinets, corners had to be cut. For example, Super Macho Man was now white rather than tan, Piston Hurricane and Bear Hugger were replaced with Piston Honda and King Hippo respectively so that they could limit the amount of colors used, and several fighters shared body types with other fighters, like Glass Joe and Don Flamenco, Von Kaiser and Great Tiger, Bald Bull and Mr. Sandman, and Soda Popinski and Super Macho Man. There was also one other thing they had to change. Since the low storage space didn't allow them to make the player character wireframe like in the arcade games, they instead resorted to making the player really small. But little did they know, that would end up being the greatest decision they made. Due to your small stature, the game shifted from a boxing game to a game about an underdog fighting his way to the top. It's an amazing dynamic and really made the game stand out. That said, where does Mike Tyson come into play? Well, let me read off this Wikipedia article. Nintendo of America's founder and former president Minoru Arakawa, I'm extremely sorry if I butchered your name, attended a boxing match during the Heavyweight Unification Series that featured its future heavyweight champion Mike Tyson. He became so astonished with the athlete's, quote, power and skill, unquote, that he was inspired to use his likeness as well as the tournament itself in the upcoming game. Tyson was rumored to have been paid $50,000 for a 3-year period for his likeness, and $50K back in 1987 would have been nearly $150,000 now. This transaction was something of a risk for Nintendo since Tyson was just your average boxer back then. But after Tyson won the heavyweight championship from Trevor Berbick on November 22, 1986, it greatly increased the hype and profit for the game, since it made $120 million, which, once again, would be $354 million in today's money. Also, keep in mind, this was before all the hot water Tyson found himself in. After the contract with Tyson ended, they replaced him in the game with Mr. Dream, but Mr. Dream just wasn't as intimidating. They tried to make him intimidating by making him some sort of be-all, end-all of boxing, but Mike Tyson was not only a real boxer, but was the be-all, end-all of boxing himself in his own right, at least at the time. That said, enough about the game's development cycle, let's jump right into the game. First up is Glass Joe, and much like in the arcade, he's just a tutorial to get you used to the controls. He's piss easy. Von Kaiser is slightly harder since instead of using hooks like Joe, he uses uppercuts which are stronger. He also introduces the player to star punches, allowing the player to use them on him in order to instantly knock him down. Piston Honda is a tutorial on blocking, with the famous Honda Rush forcing you to block, otherwise you'll get slammed with punch after punch after punch. That said, if you have good timing, you can actually counter the Honda Rush to get an instant knockdown. And that's the minor circuit. It only took me 4 minutes. The major circuit starts with Don Flamenco, who will never throw a punch unless you punch him first. If you do punch him first, he'll use a massive uppercut. Just dodge and punish. This is the only attack he has, so he's piss easy. King Hippo is a slugger who uses single, powerful punches. His overheads in particular doing 48 damage. The overheads are actually the key to beating the fight, since you need to counter them in order to deal damage. Knock him down once and you win. He's tricky to learn, but easy once you know how to beat him. Great Tiger has some pretty basic jabs and uppercuts, though his jabs are telegraphed by the jewel on his turban blinking. He also has a special attack where he'll teleport around and punch you over and over again, though it's basically just a glorified Honda Rush. Easy fight. So far the fights have been easy, but Bald Bull is here to put an end to that. He has fast rolling jabs, fast hooks, and fast uppercuts, as well as his deadly bull charge, which is even harder to counter now. He was so difficult, in fact, that I somehow managed to lose to him. I am so trash. I told you Bald Bull was hard, man. I told you Bald Bull is where my skill level just... pew. That said, after a quick rematch, I had conquered the major circuit, and it only took me 9 minutes. On to the world circuit. Now, instead of having all new fighters, the World Circuit has some refights, and the first of these is Piston Honda. He now gives you much less stun and much less stars, and his Honda rush is harder to counter. That said, if you do counter it, it's an instant knockdown if you land the sweet spot. After him is Soda Popinski. Soda has faster uppercuts, but will freeze up if you try to block his uppercuts, leaving him open. Next is a rematch with Bald Bull. He only has two differences. One, he has a taunt that gives you a star, and two, he can only be countered either by hitting him with the star punch or countering his bull charge. After that is a rematch with Don Flamenco, who now has two phases. His first phase has him actually attacking you, and his second phase has him going back to only punching you if you punch him first. Mr. Sandman has fast jabs and hooks, as well as a 3 uppercut combo called the Dreamland Express. It's the hardest attack to dodge in the game, bar none, as it comes out instantly and gives you a whopping 2 frames of warning. Super Macho Man is the same as Soda Popinski, except he has his iconic spin punch and clothesline. Honestly, out of all the fighters, the only ones that really gave me trouble were Mr. Sandman and Super Macho Man. But aside from that, this circuit wasn't too bad. Aside from one little problem. And if you lose 3 times, you get sent back to the beginning of the circuit, and since I had already lost to Bald Bull in the major circuit, that number dropped to 2, and Mr. Sandman and Super Macho Man are both genuinely tough. I don't know why I said in my original ranking that Mr. Sandman was easy, because I can never dodge his Dreamland Express. That said, after 53 minutes, I took down the World Circuit and was crowned World Champion. So I called it for the day, and was excited to face Mike Tyson tomorrow. Alright, here he is. Kid Dynamite himself. And yeah, this fight needs no introduction. It's infamous for being one of the hardest bosses in any video game ever. And while I wouldn't give him that title, if we exclude RPGs and Souls-likes, then yeah, I would 100% put him on the podium. But why is he held in such high regard? Well, that's because he throws nothing but instant knockdown uppercuts for the first 90 seconds of the fight, and you have about 6 frames to dodge each one. If you get hit by 3, that's it, you lose. Regardless, I started the fight and got my ass beat. I then challenged him to a rematch and got my ass beat. This went on for several more attempts before I finally made it past the Dynamite uppercuts phase. So that means the rest of the fight is easy, right? Obviously no. The rest of the first round has him using wink jabs, the second round has him using less powerful but still deadly uppercuts, and the third round has him using a 2-jab combo and a Honda rush. So, despite making it past the Dynamite uppercuts phase, I was quickly put in my place at the beginning of the second round. And the worst part is that it had taken me 11 minutes to even get to that point. Getting past the Dynamite uppercuts phase was bad enough, but then beating Tyson after that, I didn't come in with high hopes, and yet they were still crushed. After a while, I started to get irritated, and that irritation quickly turned into full-blown anger.
Stop!
That is probably the angriest I've sounded in a long time. That particular loss made me reconsider if I even wanted to beat Tyson. I had beaten him once before, but that took hours. That said, I pushed through, and on the very next attempt... I just locked the fuck in. I did that all with only getting hit once. Question is, can I do the rest? Yeah. Huh? Okie doke. Okay. You got so lucky. I haven't gotten knocked down a single time yet. Alright. Get up.
Yes! Woo!
I had beaten the game. The first 3 circuits had only taken me an hour and 7 minutes, but my entire playtime was 2 hours and 25 minutes, meaning I had spent an hour and 18 minutes on Mike Tyson alone. Hopefully they never made another final boss who winks and has devastating uppercuts again. That would be crazy! After that fight, I was extremely drained, but I still wanted to at least start on the next game. But before that, let's tally up our stats. This game took me 2 hours and 25 minutes, and in those 2 hours and 25 minutes, I had gotten knocked down 130 times and lost 31 times. So needless to say, it was easily the hardest game thus far. Here's the fighter ranking. I would give this game a B tier difficulty-wise, but Tyson alone shoots it up into the S tier. Quality-wise, it's also an S tier, though I'd give it an S-. It's an amazing game and definitely my favorite game on the NES, but it's still not the best Punch-Out game, and we will get a lot better. Anyways, on to the next game. Alright, Super Punch-Out. To 100% this game, I need to beat all 16 fighters without taking a single loss so that I can get the colored photo at the end, get the high score on all the circuits, and beat the best time on all the fighters. Made in 1994, Super Punch-Out is a spiritual successor to the arcade duology, and aims to go back to that formula. Without Mike Tyson to back it, since he was rotting in prison, the game didn't sell nearly as strongly, which sucks because I love this game. This is definitely a hot take, but I personally prefer this game over Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. And that's simply because it's more mechanically complex while still maintaining that addictiveness that Mike Tyson's Punch-Out has. That said, that addictiveness is what made this game a breeze for me. This is the Punch-Out game that I've played the most by far. I used to speedrun this game and I still replay it from time to time, so I know all the ins and outs of the fighters. So much so that I beat the game without getting knocked down once. Yeah, you heard me right, I beat the entire game without getting knocked down a single time. Not only that, but I got every single high score and best time on my first try. Listen, this game is in no way easy on a first playthrough, but once you really understand how Super's Little Mac works, you can absolutely decimate every single fighter in under 30 seconds. That said, let's talk about the fighters we're decimating. Gabby J is just Glass Joe but old. He has a healing move but leaves himself wide open for several seconds before using it. Bear Hugger is back and combines his old antics with the taunting of Don Flamenco, though his Bear Hug has been severely nerfed, going from an instant knockdown to an easy to avoid tickler. Piston Hurricane is mostly the same as his old fight, but he now has a new phase where he'll move around a lot. Bald Bull is very different from his previous fight, not having his rolling jabs or shovel hooks, instead having a jab combo and an uppercut combo. His Bull Charge also has multiple variants now, and that's the minor circuit. It only took me 4.5 minutes. The major circuit starts with Bob Charlie, who mainly just moves around a lot, dodging your punches. Dragon Chan is a much more streamlined fight than his arcade appearance, but still has the same flying kick, as well as a new 3-kick combo and a healing move. Masked Muscle mainly uses the Billy Mitchell technique of cheating by trying to headbutt you and spit on you, which disables your ability to punch. Mr. Sandman still has some powerful uppercuts, as well as a jab combo where the last jab hits you even if you're blocking. He also gets much stronger once you knock him down twice, and that's all for the major circuit. It also only took me 4.5 minutes. Onto the world circuit. Aaron Ryan is a combination of Kid Quick and Pizza Pasta fused into this guy. The Kid Quick part is he now takes very little damage unless you use super punches, and the Pizza Pasta part is a special attack, those being his clinch and a rush attack. Hikikigaro uses several combos like a jab combo, hook combo, uppercut combo, and a double hair whip attack. Matt Clown has a mix of streamlined attacks and absolutely ridiculous attacks, such as an ear clap that drains your HP, a projectile attack followed by an instant knockdown ear clap, and a rush of dozens of punches. Super Macho Man has all of his tricks from his other fights, but now has his new exercise programs. Program A is a 4 jab combo, Program B is a 3 hook combo, and Program C is a Dreamland Express. And that's the world circuit. It took me 7 minutes. And finally, the special circuit. The special circuit starts with Narcissus Prince, who's surprisingly easy. He has the gimmick of not letting you punch his face, and if you do, he'll get angry and be faster and stronger. Hoy Corlo is a cheating bastard who uses a weapon, and Rick and Nick Bruiser are twins who fight very similarly, and both have elbow attacks. After taking down Nick Bruiser, that was the end of Super Punch-Out. The special circuit took me 7 minutes, and after watching the credits roll, I was done. Despite only actually playing the game for about 20 minutes, my entire playtime was 30 minutes, and in those 30 minutes, I hadn't gotten knocked down a single time. That said, I would still give this game a C tier on the difficulty scale, since the only reason I didn't struggle is because I played this game a billion times. Here's the fighter tier list. As for how I'd rank this game quality-wise, it's an easy S tier. Great gameplay loop, great fighter lineup, and a surprisingly good soundtrack for how small it is, especially with that oddly nostalgic feeling staff roll music. Anyways, it's time to move on. I wanted to finish this game before heading to bed. Now, timeline-wise, going into Doc Lewis's Punch-Out before Punch-Out Wii makes no sense, but this game is kind of a tutorial for Punch-Out Wii in a sense, so I thought it would make sense.
Every journey starts somewhere. Let's make that first punch together.
I love you, Doc. Never change. Also, I thought it would be an anticlimactic ending to go from the longest game in the franchise to a game that took me less than 10 minutes. In order to 100% Doc Lewis's Punch-Out, I simply have to beat all 3 difficulties: warm-up, training, and sparring. In case you're unfamiliar with this game, it was made as a gift for loyal fans who joined Club Nintendo and earned Platinum status. And it was definitely a great reward since this game is really fun. I'll get into the specifics of why I love Punch-Out Wii's gameplay loop so much when we get to that game, but these fights in particular are fun as hell, with sparring mode in particular being on the podium for my favorite fights in the series. Doc Lewis is a King Hippo style fight where one knockdown ends the fight, but don't let that fool you. Despite being washed, Doc has some tricks up his sleeve. For a quick run through of the 3 modes, warm-up is really easy. Doc literally tells you how to avoid his attacks. Training is kinda difficult since he throws in a fast uppercut, fast jab, and a 2-jab combo, and at low health he'll eat a chocolate bar and go into a second phase, and sparring is the hardest of them all, adding a more powerful jab and hook, an instant knockdown star punch attack, and the chocolate bar gimmick again, except he'll do it multiple times. Over and over. Okay, this is getting ridiculous.
No! Now you done it. You won't like Doc when he's angry. Ah!
Yep, he has a second phase. This second phase is much harder, and his attacks do an asinine amount of damage. Regardless, I still managed to beat all of these modes in 8 minutes without a single loss, and I only got knocked down twice. So I went to bed excited to get to work on the final game the next day. I won't give you a tier list since I think it would make more sense to call this an add-on to Punch-Out Wii. Regardless, this was a great reward for earning Platinum status at Club Nintendo. Oh, and speaking of Punch-Out Wii, here it is. By far the biggest game in this marathon. In order to 100% Punch-Out Wii, I need to beat all 13 fighters, beat them again in title defense mode, get 10 wins in max last stand to unlock championship mode as well as unlock the secret fighter, and beat 3 challenges for each fight equaling to 81 challenges. The only things I won't be doing are playing head-to-head mode, beating all the fights in championship mode, and unlocking the headgear. Head-to-head mode and championship mode don't unlock anything, and unlocking the headgear would just be a massive waste of time since you need to lose 100 times to unlock it. So before we get into the game, let's get into the backstory of it. You see, the development of Punch-Out Wii actually goes back to another Wii game, Wii Sports. You see, that game proved that integrating motion controls into sports was actually really fun, and one of the most popular sports in the game was boxing, due to its high energy and intense moment-to-moment gameplay, as well as a super tough challenge at the end, who wasn't even close to as hard as anything we've seen thus far, but was still hard enough to be incredibly iconic. So naturally, seeing how well that game, and specifically that mode, was received, Nintendo would go to Next Level Games, who would later go on to make Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3, to develop a new Punch-Out game. And the result? Punch-Out Wii, as of now, is the final game in the Punch-Out series, and it aimed to reboot the franchise. And it was a success, since it sold 1.27 million copies. It was a very ambitious game, but in my opinion, it took the already amazing Punch-Out franchise and brought it to all new heights. The game aimed to not only be a revival, but a celebration, taking everything great about the franchise and turning it up way beyond 11. The characters look amazing and are even more racist than they were before, which, while some of the characters, these 3 in particular, are beyond insensitive, they were also really funny and pretty charming. The controls are the best they've ever been, with ducking and weaving, then making your move feeling even better than Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. The only thing I don't like is that you can't adjust the length of your dodge like in Super Punch-Out. The Star Punch system has been upgraded from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, since instead of using stars individually, as well as losing them individually when you get hit, you lose all of them upon getting hit, but you'll also use all of them at once, with the punch getting more powerful the more stars you have. The animation? My god, this game is gorgeous. The animation is absolutely stunning, from the characters and how much personality they have, to the cutscenes, to the amazing special effects. And the music in this game in particular is near perfect, with the regular fight themes capturing the thrill of the fight gloriously, and the character themes perfectly capturing the energy of not only the fighter, but the country they're representing. I'll play some of my favorites now. But enough talk about this game in a general sense, let's get into the actual fights. There are 13 fights in this game, and I'll be splitting them up into 5 categories. The ones that are essentially the same as the NES iterations, the ones that only have a few changes, the ones that have a lot of changes but still maintain their fundamentals, the ones that have changed entirely, and the one new fighter in this game. In the category of basically the same, we have Glass Joe, Piston Honda, now renamed to Piston Hondo, Bald Bull, and Super Macho Man. The only difference with them is that their patterns are different. In the category of a few new changes, we have Von Kaiser, King Hippo, Bear Hugger, Great Tiger, and Soda Popinski. Von Kaiser has a new taunt, King Hippo has a new attack you need to duck, Bear Hugger traded out his jab for an overhead, Great Tiger has a new special attack, and Soda Popinski has a new rage mode where he uses a Dreamland Express. A new taunt where he'll try to drink his soda, and the blocking trick no longer works. In the category of very different but keeps their fundamentals, we have Don Flamenco and Mr. Sandman. Don Flamenco goes from having one attack to having one of the most varied arsenals in the whole game, with fast and slow uppercuts, a hook, a 3-hook combo, and a jab he telegraphs by clapping. He also has a new gimmick where his toupee has a chance to come off, and if it does, he gets a bit angry. Mr. Sandman's only attack he kept was the Dreamland Express, because aside from that, all of his attacks are new, like his overheads and his jabs. For the fighters who are entirely different, we have Aaron Orion. He now requires you to counter his attacks in order to get damage in. As for the one new fighter, we have Disco Kid, and he's disappointing. As for how I was doing with the fight, the minor circuit was piss easy. I beat it in 10 minutes without taking a single knockdown. The major circuit was also easy, and only took me 11 minutes, with the only knockdown I took being at the hands of Bear Hugger and Great Tiger. And the world circuit was actually pretty tough, taking me 17 minutes and having me take 1 knockdown at the hands of Aaron Ryan and Bald Bull, and 2 knockdowns at the hands of Mr. Sandman. That said, after only 53 minutes and 9 knockdowns, I was done with both Doc Lewis and Contender mode. After a credit sequence, I unlocked Title Defense mode.
A new challenge awaits. Being world champion brings along the responsibility of upholding your title, defend your belt against all challengers, and become the greatest of all time.
Now, unlike Title Defense mode in the arcade games, the fighters in this mode are wildly different, now having delayed attacks, new special moves, and some new tricks. Let's go over all of them very watered down. Glass Joe has headgear, Von Kaiser has a new instant knockdown attack, Disco Kid has a new 3-jab combo, King Hippo has body armor, Piston Hondo has delayed uppercuts, Bear Hugger only takes 2 hits of stun with every attack unless you hit him with a star punch, Great Tiger now has color-coded attacks, Don Flamenco is just generally stronger, Aaron Ryan has a flail, Soda Popinski will give you more hits the more you stun him, starting with 2 hits and going up by 1 infinitely, Bald Bull can only be knocked down with a star punch, Super Macho Man has delayed uppercuts and a much faster clothesline, and Mr. Sandman has wink uppercuts inspired by Mike Tyson. All of these fighters, except Disco Kid, are massive steps up from their original fights. Almost all of them gave me trouble. For World B, I got knocked down twice by Glass Joe, 0 times by Von Kaiser and Disco Kid, and once by King Hippo. It took me 15 minutes. For World A, I got knocked down 0 times by Piston Hondo, I got knocked down 6 times and knocked out once by Bear Hugger, I got knocked down 4 times and knocked out once by Great Tiger, and I got knocked down once by Don Flamenco. World A took me 24 minutes. For World S, I got knocked down 0 times by Aaron Ryan, got knocked down 10 times and knocked out 3 times by Soda Popinski, got knocked down 8 times and knocked out 2 times by Bald Bull, got knocked down 5 times and knocked out once by Super Macho Man, and I got knocked down 10 times and knocked out twice by Mr. Sandman. And that was World S. It took me 57 minutes. And with that, I was done with the main game. Almost. The entire thing took me 2 hours and 35 minutes. And I'm not even a third of the way done yet. Now I have to do Max Last Stand. If you don't know, Max Last Stand has you going up against a randomly selected opponent until you take 3 losses. And this mode scared me. You want to know why?
The scary thing about this mode is I need to win 10 matches to unlock championship mode. If I lose 3, that's it. I have to start all of this all over again.
So, needless to say, I was under a lot of pressure. That said, for the most part, the game was generous with me. The fighters it gave me in order were Von Kaiser, Don Flamenco, Soda Pamitsky, who I lost to, Von Kaiser again, Don Flamenco again, and then the secret fighter. In case you don't know, there's a 1 in 14 chance of encountering a secret fighter, and said secret fighter is...
Alright, who is it? It's the man, the myth, the legend. He's finally here, performing for you.
The fact that Donkey Kong is here is amazing, since he was the perfect fit. I mean, he uses his fists a lot, but that said, while the concept of DK being in Punch-Out is great on its own, what really matters is execution, and thankfully, this was one of the best fights in the game. First of all, his animations are amazing. They're so full of personality. Second of all, the music is great. And third of all, the fight itself is just really fun. He's essentially just a more unorthodox Don Flamenco. His attacks consist of an ear clap you have to parry, a backhand, and multiple slam attacks. He even throws in a few combos which are really fun to dodge. Also, his voice acting is absolutely perfect. Seriously, shout out to Takashi Nagasako. He did a great job. Anyways, the good news is that I beat him without getting knocked down. The bad news is I won by decision. Lame. Anyways, after that was...
Alan, we are so fucked.
So this is the part where I'd say I took my second loss, right? Well...
Now Donkey Kong gets to watch me get my ass beat. Isn't that nice? Okay. I got the pattern down. I can do this. I hit the counter. Yes! I beat him! By some miracle, I beat him.
Yeah, I managed to beat him while only getting knocked down once. Ironically, after that, the game gave me Glass Joe. After that, it gave me DK again, then Piston Hondo.
No. Oh, no.
Yep, I lost to Piston Hondo, meaning if I took one more loss, the game was over. So I was walking on eggshells. If the game wasn't nice with who it gave me, I would have to do all of this all over again. So who were my final fighters? Well, first up, and potentially last up, was Super Macho Man. I was nervous. One mistake and it's all over. And it was down to the wire. I had 2 knockdowns on Macho and he had 2 knockdowns on me. And then the first round ended, so while I had to knock Macho down 3 times, he only had to knock me down once. And for one entire agonizing minute, I played at top form, knocked him down once, twice, and was close to knocking him down a 3rd time. But then... this was it. This would decide everything. If I could dodge this, then I'd only have one more fight to go before unlocking championship mode. But if I got hit even once, I would have to redo all of this.
Super Macho Man.
Oh my god.
That was way too close. Finally, my final fight was Von Kaiser again, so that was easy. So after that, I was finally finished with the main game, and I was still only a third of the way done. But before we get to the final step of 100%ing this game, let's check the time. So far, the game has taken me 3 hours and 18 minutes, and yes, I was serious when I said I was only a third of the way done. The final thing I had to do was complete all the character challenges, 3 for each character. So when you combine the 13 contender fights, the 13 title defense fights, and the 1 secret fight, you get 27 fights, and multiplying that by 3, you get 81 character achievements. That is a ludicrous amount, and on top of that, some of these challenges are hard. That said, instead of going through all the fights in order, I'm gonna do what I do best and rank them based on how hard and long their challenges took me, and go over the top 5. So let's start with the contender challenges. Now, it might seem crazy that Glass Joe took me this long, but I have a good reason. I'm a fucking idiot. The first 2 challenges are easy, but that third challenge is where it gets questionable. You need to let him win by decision, which means you have to wait 9 in-game minutes, and I had to do this twice because Joe didn't do enough damage to be able to win by decision in time. So as crazy as it sounds, yes, Glass Joe was one of the fighters that took me the longest. Soda Popinski is infamous in this game for being one of the hardest fighters, and while most people talk about his title defense fight, his contender fight is no cakewalk either. Much like Glass Joe, while 2 of his achievements are fine, one of them is absolute hell. Going a full round without losing a heart is insanely hard when Soda has some of the fastest attacks of any contender fight. Honestly, you might be surprised he's not higher, and I am too, especially considering who's up next. Disco Kid may seem unsuspecting at first, but for some reason, beating him in 6 punches was a pain. I was trying to do it fast, so I was trying to counter the hooks, and for some reason, I just could not get the counter down consistently. That said, I eventually got it and was beyond pissed that it took me so long. Moving on. Don Flamenco took a while entirely because of my own stupidity. The only challenge that was bad was knocking Don's toupee off in round 1, and the only reason for that was just because I didn't know how knocking down Don's toupee off worked. And I don't know how, but that made this fight take 16 minutes. Don't ask me how, I genuinely could not tell you. Wow, the final boss was the hardest to get the challenges on? Gee, who would have thought? Let's check the challenges. Win the fight and evade every Dreamland Express? Yeah, that makes sense. Find 7 ways to earn stars? Okay, that one's a little tough, but not too bad. Alright, what's the last one? I don't even need to say anything. This challenge speaks for itself. So that was all the contender challenges. After doing all of those, I was ready for bed and was excited to finish the game the next day. The final day is upon us, and I was excited. Finally, I would achieve something I've never achieved before, beating all the title defense achievements. Yep, I've never even attempted these before because the thought of having to do some already ball-busting fights with added challenges terrified me. So let's go into the top 5 for title defense and their challenges. By the way, I would just like to say that at this point, I was over 5 hours into this playthrough, and little did I know these challenges would take me another 4. Oh boy. Donkey Kong was mainly difficult because of the strategies I had to use. A lot of counters you have to hit to get either stars or instant knockdowns are really tight. Don't be intimidated by the no ducking achievement, you'll get it naturally. Only one attack has to be exclusively ducked. Beating him in under 150 seconds is difficult, but manageable. That said, the main difficulty is beating him without stunning him. In order to do that, you have to rely on star punches, but once again, the counters are extremely tight. That said, I got it eventually.
Or not the roll.
Yes!
Alright, there we go.
Bald Bull is the same deal as Donkey Kong. 2 out of the 3 challenges force you to rely on stars, and much like DK, getting stars is incredibly hard. There's more opportunities for stars than with DK, but the opportunities have even tighter timing. The other achievement is more tedious than anything.
Alright, I did it.
Piston Hondo is hard for one reason, the no losing a heart achievement. You see, not losing a heart means no blocking jabs, and not blocking jabs means less star opportunities. It was incredibly hard, and I just relied on patience and memorization. Similarly to... I guess I'm not. There it is. While I was able to get all 3 achievements on Soda at the same time, it still didn't make it any easier. You need to deal with one of the hardest fighters in the game, let him heal whenever he wants, and not get hit a single time so that you don't lose your combo. I have nothing else to say, it's Soda Popinski. I think the conversation begins and ends at that.
Fuck me.
Yes!
Sit the fuck down.
85 minutes. 85 minutes. 85 minutes. I spent 1 hour and 25 minutes on Mr. Sandman alone. You know, I used to think that Mr. Sandman was the easiest of the big 3, but after this, he steamrolled his way to the hardest fighter in the game, without question. Knocking him out in round 1 is one thing. Knocking him down in 33 seconds is another. But coming back from almost being knocked out and still winning the fight was absolute hell. And for one reason, it's all based on luck. Getting back up from almost getting knocked out is entirely luck dependent, and still beating Sandman after that was so stress-inducing. Every time I got back up from almost being knocked out and still proceeded to lose, my stomach dropped and my soul hurt. Honestly, after a while, I started to lose hope. I felt like I just couldn't do it. After coming all this way, I thought all my work would be for nothing. But I couldn't just give up. The end was in sight, so I had to break out the big guns.
You see these? You see these, like, little bracelet things? My granddad gave them to me. I'm using the luck of my granddad.
As the light at the end of the tunnel came into view, memories flashed through my mind. Memories of triumphs and hardships, memories of beautiful heights and unspeakable horrors, memories of thousands of views, hundreds of likes and dislikes, 5 games, 17 countries, 28 fighters, 81 fights, over 100 wins to 81 losses, an entire 25 years of history in less than a week. Sure, the last game came out before I was born, but why would that matter? I'm a Punch-Out fan, goddammit! I'll keep loving this stupid racist game even if no one else does. Even if I have to wait until I'm a geriatric fossil in order to play the next game. Even if its multi-billion-dollar parent corporation sees it as nothing more than another forgotten IP to throw onto the pile. The spirit of Mike Tyson is what matters! Let's fucking go!
Good job, son. Good job.
July 13th, 11:53 p.m. I had done it. I had 100%ed every Punch-Out game. I was done with it all. Now, it's time to answer the question. Which Punch-Out game is the hardest to 100%? Well, the easiest is the arcade by a mile. The fights are all very by the numbers, and none of them will give you much trouble at all. Coming right above that is Super Punch-Out. Super Punch-Out has some pretty hard fights, but Super's Little Mac is just way too powerful, being able to decimate any fighter in under 30 seconds. In third place, shockingly enough, is the Super Arcade. Despite this being my original number one when I made my Punch-Out Fighters ranking, it's not my number one anymore. Unlike every other Punch-Out game, this game relies solely on making you learn the ins and outs of the fighters. Now, you could say that every Punch-Out game does that, but I think this one really emphasizes that. That said, once you do learn the fighters in and out, the fights become a lot easier. In second place is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I'll be honest, this game is incredibly easy. Up until the final three fighters. Mr. Sandman, Super Macho Man, and especially Mike Tyson absolutely carry this game out of last place, and shoot it all the way up to second place. That said, number one is without a doubt Punch-Out Wii. Not only are the fighters incredibly difficult, but the achievements you need to get for them are just ridiculous, especially in title defense mode. So in my opinion, Punch-Out Wii is the hardest. And that's it. I assume you're waiting to hear some sort of big truth about I learned about Punch-Out that everybody is dying to hear, and I don't have that. The only thing I gained from this marathon is a reminder as to why I love Punch-Out so much, is because of the heart and soul of this franchise. Behind every game is a story, from a story of the thrill of the fight, to a story of a former champion being challenged by millions around the world, to the story of an underdog working his way to the top despite impossible odds. That last one in particular, it speaks to me, because as somebody who's been in that position before, it hits really close to home. There are series that have bad games littered about, or series with the games that haven't aged well, but in my opinion, this series is different. Even from its debut in 1984, it stood out among the crowd, and it continued to stand out on every console it was on, being, at the very least, one of the best games on its respective console, with Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and Punch-Out Wii in particular being my favorite games on the NES and Wii respectively. While other boxing games try to capture the magic of boxing, none of them will ever hold a candle to this one. It's a celebration of everything that boxing is. The fire, the passion, the adrenaline, the thrill of the fight. And at the end of this road, I hope you found that too. Thanks for training with me again, champ. And maybe one day, we can do this again sometime. Good night.